Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Fan View podcast. Tonight we'll be discussing Saturday's game versus Oxford, and I'm delighted to have Ian on tonight's show from the OUFC Fan View podcast. First of all, gents, how are we doing? And how are you doing, Ian?
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. Yeah, looking forward to it. Interesting week for my club, so I feel we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to say thank you. So, Ian, you are the first honorary opposition fan on the podcast. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I wanted to say to the listeners as well, guys, feel free to follow and like and subscribe to Ian's podcast. Is it right? It's the OUFC Fan View podcast, Ian?
That's right. Yeah, just OUFC Fan View on YouTube or Ian OUFC on Twitter. And yeah, you guys, when you're superstars and you're millionaires, remember who was your first guest?
And vice versa. And vice versa. So, Ian, yeah, I think probably with what's happened recently with Oxford, it's probably a good, time to start with the manager situation. I know. Obviously, the manager Des Buckingham he recently got sacked. Was it Sunday?
That's right. Yeah,
Sunday. So yeah, I just wanted to get your feedback on that, really. And how's the mood amongst the fans? With the recent sacking, do you feel it's been justified? Do you think he should have been given a bit more time? How's it gone down with you guys?
It was a real shock. I don't think many fans expected it to happen at all, despite the fact we've been on a really poor run, and despite the fact that we're sliding down the league. A lot of fans just have a very high regard for Des Buckingham after what he did last season, bringing us up in the playoffs. That playoff final win over Bolton was probably, I say in my opinion, the greatest day I've had supporting Oxford United. It was a fantastic day and a fantastic win. He's an Oxford guy. He's an Oxford fan. So you really feel like he's got this, he brought this real feel-good factor to the club. And you didn't really feel he was under a huge amount of pressure at the moment. But clearly the board have thought differently. But there's been a lot of anger from the Oxford fans from I would say probably high percentage, very high percentage of Oxford fans not happy with the decision, would have liked him given more time. Even my own point of view, I would have even been happy if we'd have gone down under Buckingham and given him another chance in League One next season. So it has come as a bit of a shock, and now that it's a few days removed, that kind of shock does make way for like what's going to happen next. But yeah, just this one felt like I don't know quite the right words, but they say there's no sentiment in football, and this one just felt really cruel.
It's interesting there that you say that you'd have been prepared to go down a league with Des Buckingham. I think Charlie, I can see Charlie nodding. I think Charlie knows what I'm going to say here. I think when Bielsa got sacked for Leeds, we were saying the exact same thing. I think when you saw Leeds in the Premiership after he went, it was a bit of a shit show, really. And we were all saying the exact same thing. I'd prefer to have gone down with Bielsa and just started again, really. Don't you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, as Ian was speaking there, that was the first thing that popped into my head. I think all Leeds fans would have said the exact same thing around Bielsa going. But I just wanted to check as well, Ian, obviously, with Des Buckingham, was he the type of manager that would die on his sword, do you think, in terms of the playing style? Or has he tried to adapt it in recent weeks? Because, I have just had a look at your last 6 results, there isn't a win in there. Do you think has he been stubborn with his tactics, or has he made personnel changes? Have you seen anything that he's tried to do recently?
Yeah, really good question. I feel that's probably one of his biggest downfall in a way is the fact he has been a bit stubborn to be in this kind of we'll do it our way kind of mentality of rather than maybe you've seen like I'll compare us to Derby, where Paul Warne's made Derby quite hard to beat, and it's maybe a bit attritional, but they're picking up results. We've been maybe certainly in the last few games a little bit too open, a little bit too naive, and now the confidence has gone in the players. It was just a look at getting worse and worse by the game. We did have a similar run with that under Buckingham in last season under League One. And we got absolutely smashed by Bolton in March, 5-0. and it looked like the season was just dead and buried. But then Buckingham sort of found a tactic, found a formation that really worked, and we really kicked on and we did really well. So me, like a lot of the fans, were quite hopeful that he could still do that again, like just tweak things a little bit, and something would like click again, and we'd go on another good run.
So has that been the theme of the season then, Ian? I think I've had a look at recent. Is it 4-3-3 that seems to be the main formation that you've been playing? Has that been a little bit too open for you guys? Has there been times where you wanted to be a little bit more compact and a little bit more kind of men behind the ball? Has it been too kind of free flowing for you?
In recent weeks, we've certainly felt that. I've actually felt that a lot throughout the season. Was the fact is like the step up in quality has been probably a lot harder than we even thought it would be. And when a lot of these championship sides turn on the style, we struggle to like live with them a little bit, or quite a lot in some cases. And whilst that was quite notable against the top sides in the division, that's becoming more and more noticeable against like the mid sides or even the bottom sides. Like the QPR performance was absolutely pathetic, really. It was a really bad result and performance. But the style, the formation was more of a 4-1-4-1.
Oh, sounds familiar again, doesn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, you'd have like the one City midfielder, and even he went quite aggressive with that, having Cameron Brannigan as the City midfielder, who is more of an attacking midfielder, if anything else. And then you'd have two like almost number 10s behind, but trying to like press and trying to win a lot of balls back high, and then trying to like turn possession over in the opposition's half and counter-attack like that. That's where we had a lot of success when things were good under Buckingham. But in recent weeks, teams have maybe worked us out a little bit, and we've been pretty tough to watch.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of takes us on. Obviously, Des Buckingham's now left. I've had a look at, some people that have been linked with you guys, and I think the common theme that I'm seeing is Gary Rowett, and also I've had a little look at Twitter as well, and I think you fans seem to be quite happy with that appointment as a whole. I think it's someone that maybe you guys think he can come in and steady the ship, and because at the moment I think you're 20th, are you at the moment? I think you're 20th in the league, so obviously it's still open for you guys to make a season and get that survival. So do you think Gary Rowett is the man that can do that for you?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, it is not been confirmed yet, but it is still looking very likely it is going to be Gary Rowett. There were some horrible rumours going around that it was going to be John Terry, and you're like, you've got to be absolutely joking.
That would have been, I would have felt sorry for you if that had happened. Yeah. I can't lie to you. That would have been shocking. Wow.
Especially when if you get rid of Buckingham, who's like a manager with limited experience, and then you go and bring in John Terry, you're just like, what are you doing? But thankfully they're not going to do that. And there'd be no misses in players' lounge then, will there, after games as well, if John Terry's floating about?
Exactly. Lock up your wives.
Yeah.
He's I think Gary Rowett, he seems like a safe pair of hands. He's done this sort of job before with other clubs like Millwall, at Birmingham, Stoke, where he's made them hard to beat. He's made them more resolute, and I do think that is what Oxford need at the moment. Something a little bit more streetwise, and because I do actually think whilst it's not a squad that's glittering with like championship quality, I do think there's more quality in there than what we've been showing recently. So I would say once fans do get over this initial shock and anger of it, I think they'll be quite pleased with Gary Rowett coming in.
And also kind of with the players that have come in under the previous manager, I've seen, I've had a look at the transfer dealings, and I think is it Peter Chioso? I think he seems to be the biggest signing that comes in terms of a transfer fee. How have the new players settled in? Have they give you the lift that you've been looking for this season, or have they kind of left you wanting more a little bit? Because I've seen that there's been Matt Phillips as well come in, who was a bit of a veteran, and I don't think he's played many games. But how have the new signings been for you guys?
Yeah, unfortunately, a bit disappointing, really. Peter Chioso has actually been really good at right back. He's been one of the few exceptions. Jamie Cumming is a goalkeeper, but he was there last season, so that doesn't really feel like a new signing. But a lot of the players were wingers, because that was the way Buckingham liked to play. We desperately needed to replace Josh Murphy after he was like our jewel in the crown, really, but he didn't sign a new contract and went to Portsmouth. So we were desperately trying to like fill that hole. Shariki Dembele was actually the biggest signing we made in the window, and but just get injured. Shemi Poheta injured. Matt Phillips got injured. Dembele got injured. Another guy who's a really talented player is Kyle Edwards, injured. So we've just a lot of them have just come in, and unfortunately,
you're not having luck with the injuries, are you?
I think though, with our playing budget, we had to kind of take a chance on players that have had a bad injury record and hope that they wouldn't get injured. And unfortunately, it has not really worked. Dane Scarlett's actually been decent on
from
loan.
Tottenham.
He knows he's a decent finisher. When we can get him into shooting areas, he looks pretty promising.
Yeah, I think we found ourselves in a similar position when we went into the Premiership as well, didn't we, Charlie, in terms of buying Victor Orta's broken toys, basically. So we'd try and go for players who'd come in who's had a poor injury record with the hope that, they might put a run of games together and be an asset for us. I had a look at the at Peter Kioso. I think you got him from Ipswich, didn't you, the right back? And he seems to be having a really good season for you so far.
Yeah, he's a good player. I like Peter Kioso. He was at Peterborough last season on loans. We saw him play against Oxford. And he's a good player. He's actually only just come back from an illness that he had on international duty, which kept him out for a few weeks. But yeah, he's been good.
Yeah.
Just to ask as well, Ian, obviously, kind of a different sort of question, but obviously at the start of the season then, coming into it, obviously you spoke about earlier, obviously, the difference in quality between the League One and the Championship, which I understand. But as a fan base, what were your expectations going into this season? Is it just to stay up? Or did you hope, obviously, I know he's not there now, but did you hope Des Buckingham could maybe take you a little bit higher in the league? Or how's the expectations at the minute, do you think?
I think the expectation was just purely we got to stay up. I don't see how anybody would really have had higher expectations than that. There were a few little people. We had a decent start, and there were a few people knocking around saying, "Oh, maybe we're going to be challenging mid-table." But I don't think anybody realistically would have thought that we'd be anything other than struggling against relegation this season. And again, that is another reason why it's a little bit sad what they did to Buckingham, because we're not in the relegation zone. We've not been in the relegation zone all season, and realistically, being in, I think, 21st place and staying up on goal difference on the final day, as horrible as a season as that is, would have been an achievement for good achievement.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Do you think Rowett can come in and get this squad going? Then are you happy with that appointment? Do you think he'll make a difference with the players you've got?
Well, I think he's done quite a clever thing by delaying coming in as boss for a couple of days. So that means he might be in the stands for the Leeds game. As opposed
I was just going to ask, do you think he'll be in charge for the game or not?
I don't see how he can be now. If he comes in on Thursday, maybe he will. But I feel it's just going to be, I'll watch from the stands, and Craig Short will probably manage the team. But we got two huge games. Park in the Leeds game for a second, which we'll get into in a minute. We got two massive games over Christmas. We've got Cardiff at home. We've got Plymouth at home.
And they're winnable games for you guys.
Very winnable. Yeah. Wayne Rooney's Plymouth, very winnable.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee you're going to win them. Like Gary Rowett might come in and lose them both. And then you've got a guy who's going to come in, and if he starts badly, the fan base is going to turn on him very quickly and turn on the board very quickly. So it is a bit of a worrying time for United, that is for sure.
Hopefully you'll get the new manager bounce maybe that some of these teams see. Just
not on Saturday though.
Not on Saturday, obviously.
Of course we will.
Sorry about that, Ian. We've got to say that, I'm afraid. If Gary Rowett comes in, do you see him getting backed by the board in terms of bringing new players in? And if so, where do you think you really need to strengthen as a team to
the loan market could be a good way for you guys, maybe.
I was thinking the loan market originally of being better with our loans, because again, we had a good loan player come in, Ben Nelson, a centre back from Leicester, but you can probably guess what happened. He played a few games, got injured, and now he's out for 6 months. So we're not
having a look at these injuries at all, are you? God.
I know. And that was one where he literally no one was around him, he just fell down. So that was a horrible one, because you could tell it was a bad injury because like nobody was around him and he was just on the ground,
just dropped,
writhing in pain. Hopefully they use the loan market successfully. They have said that they do want to sort of spend and try and bring some players in. I don't know what sort of quality you're going to be able to bring in. I feel you're still going to be looking at players that are either older, that we're trying to get a tune out of in their last throes of their career, or players that are making the step up from League One, who we hope can make that quality jump, really. But the board have been pretty decent relative to how much of a budget we have with spending money and bringing in new players. So I would expect there to be new players coming in January.
And I think probably...
Oh, sorry. I just want to say, you said where we need to strengthen. Through the middle, absolutely through the middle. Defence, we need a centre back, maybe two. Need a holding midfielder for sure, and that elusive,
the whole spine of the team. Then you think that's been the issue for you,
and that elusive thing that everybody needs is everybody talks about is we need a striker, but it's hard, they are hard to find.
Yeah, I think looking from the outside looking in, I think offensively, I think you look good going forward. I think obviously it's just that defensive side. I think. Again, from the outside looking in, when you look at the likes of, Tyler Goodrum, Mark Harris, you see threats there to score goals. Obviously, I know Dane Scarlett as well has been chipping in with goals. I think it's probably, down the spine of the team, like you say.
Gary Rowett's going to play a different formation to what we've been doing as well. I mean, he's going to be more relying on making Oxford compact and hard to beat, and that is going to need his type of players to come in rather than
what formation does Rowett usually do? Sorry,
he's done wing backs in the past. He's done a lot of 4-5-1 in the past,
right?
Which I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to that sort of model with Oxford, sort of especially in away games.
Do you think that's what you need, Ian? Do you think you need to kind of go back to basics a little bit and get men behind the ball, or do you think you just need kind of a few, keep the current fluidity of the team, but just try and maybe get some better personnel in there?
Performances have been so bad recently, and again, this is why they probably made the decision on Buckingham. And when you start thinking of the logic and take the emotion out of it, you can maybe see why they did it, because we're in a really bad trot of the moment where we are looking pretty toothless going forward. We're not looking particularly good at the back. A lot of the times when we play possession, opposition are almost like letting us pass the ball around and waiting for us to make a mistake and then picking it off us and scoring. So there's a lot of problems that Gary Rowett, if he is going to be the boss, needs to come in and kind of take care of. And usually that starts with shoring up the back line and making it tough to beat.
Yeah, he has got a lot of experience at championship level, though, hasn't he? So I think that's what he's got on his side. And I think if I was an Oxford fan, given the squad and the resources that you've got, I think I would be happy with that appointment, in all fairness. And like Mike said, I think if you have to go back to basics a bit, if it keeps you in the league, so be it, sort of thing, I guess.
I think if you look at what he did at Birmingham before they made that shocking decision to get Wayne Rooney in, I think he were doing brilliantly with a fifth, sixth in the league. He had him playing some really good football, and I think they beat us, didn't they, at their place at the beginning of last season?
I think that was John Eustace.
Was it John Eustace?
John
Eustace. Oh, was it John
Eustace?
He has been at Birmingham, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been at Birmingham. I just don't think it was.
Yeah, it is John Eustace. Yeah, but is it so? When was the last time he were? When was the last time he were? I'm sure he were at Birmingham.
That was Gary Rowett. I was convinced that was Gary Rowett as well.
I thought it was Eustace. I could be wrong, to be fair. I thought it was Eustace, to be fair. But
anyway, but I think the last time he were at Birmingham, I think he did a really good job there, and I think he got a squad who didn't have many, flair players, and he got them playing, really well as a unit. So I think if I were you guys at Oxford, I'd be, although I know it's probably sad to see a well-loved manager go. Maybe perhaps it's something to look forward to.
We know that feeling, don't we?
We do so well. We do.
You guys talked about that, and I completely forgot that you bought Sam Allardyce in at the end of that season.
Did you have to remind us of that?
Oh God, I literally blocked that out.
Looking back now, it just seems absolute madness, and especially like he had Carl Robinson as his assistant manager, who'd just been sacked and did a terrible job in his last few months with us. And then you see him on a Premier League touchline, and you're just like, what?
Only briefly. Only briefly.
At that point, Ian, I think the board had well and truly lost their heads.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the decision to sack Bielsa and bring in, Jesse Marsh, who has no real experience of. I mean, obviously, we were at Salzburg for a bit, but I think the decision to do that. I think if you're gonna sack Bielsa, perhaps bring someone in who's a little bit more established, and then the decision making after Marsh just got worse and worse and worse. Obviously, we got Avi Gracia in, who he did okay at Watford, and then I don't think anybody saw Sam Allardyce coming in. I think he came in, took I think £500,000 a game, got us relegated, and then just trotted off into sunset. Sorry.
Yeah. What a time.
What a
time to be alive that was.
What a time to be alive, definitely. So I think moving on to Saturday's game is probably where we go next with this one, guys. So I think, Ian, looking at Saturday's game, I think obviously you can see that obviously Leeds United are quite a formidable force at home. It's probably a shame that we're not playing you away from home yet, because I think that's where you see a real difference with us. It's real night and day at the moment. But from your perspective, if you were to get a result at Elland Road, how do you think you do that?
Well, probably the main way we need to do it is by, first of all, being quite compact and being quite hard to beat, and because I know some other sides have tried to do that recently. I think Derby came and just played very negatively against you, but then didn't carry any goal threat as well. So you've still got to try and carry that goal threat or try and nick something and hold on to it, but under absolutely no illusions, it's going to be a ridiculously hard game for Oxford to do it, to get anything from this game. I really feel that we are going to just be relying on seeing if we can get a lucky goal, a little bit of a smash and grab, and then sit behind it.
I think that's what we've seen at Elland Road, haven't we, Charlie? I think teams usually we've only seen, I think, 2 or 3 teams really come at Elland Road this season and try and play football. I think the majority of teams that come kind of try and sit back, try and hit us on the break, and try and probably get us from corners or set pieces. So I think, do you have the kind of players that kind of are a threat on the break? Have you got players that are a threat at set pieces? Has that kind of been your style this season, or do you think you're going to kind of come and try and play?
It's not. It's been the style we've tried to use on the break, especially. But that usually came from a more higher press, which I don't expect Oxford to do. But we've definitely got some pace on the wings. It depends if he plays. I talked about him earlier, Kyle Edwards. If he does play and if he does start, he's only just coming back from injury himself. He's got a lot of pace, and he could be that guy that, if Oxford can get him counter-attacking, could get Oxford up the pitch and cause some real problems. Other than that, it's not really a huge amount. And we've not Shemi Plaheta's supposed to be really quick as well, but we've not really seen that from him either. And but we've still got we've got some useful players. Like Harris isn't bad if he starts, or Scarlett isn't bad. They're not slow. They're not like rapid players, but they're certainly not slow, and they can certainly get forward and cause Leeds problems if we're able to do that.
So with this season with you guys, is it been kind of a rotation between Harris and Dane Scarlett, or is it been as one? Because I know they've both got about 4 or 5 goals, so they're both chipping in at the moment with goals, aren't they? But do you prefer one to the other?
Yeah, probably at the moment I prefer Scarlett to Harris. Harris started the season with 4 goals in 4 games, and he hasn't scored since. So he hasn't scored since August. And we saw this last year with Mark Harris as well. He started the season well. He went on a long, barren run, and he looked like a bit of a shadow of the player he was at the start. And then once he finds the net again, he might sort of kick in and score a few more goals. But Scarlett looks the one who's more likely to score a goal. Harris has missed some really good opportunities as well, some real sitters in games. So Scarlett looks like he if you give him a chance, he's more likely the one to tuck it away.
Is he your Bamford basically, Harris? Is he been missing some sitters? Like did you see the Bamford miss last week?
I don't think I did actually.
Oh God, it was so bad, wasn't it, Charlie?
It had an XG of 0.98.
Who, Bamford?
Yeah, Bamford. So essentially, 98% of the time that goes in the back of the net. It would be Dan James on the right hand side, kind of cuts back and pulls it across. I wouldn't even say it's between the goal line and the 6-yard box, and he's basically ran past it a little bit. So as Bamford, and he's tried to kind of turn his body and do one of them flicks.
All he has to do is tap it in.
Yeah. To cut a long story short, all I had to do was tap it in. So yeah, I think
I'm always quite interested to like ask an opposition fan this. I think because us as Leeds fans, we're so involved in it, and we're right tense and we get over emotional about it. But as an outsider, Ian, what have you made to Leeds so far this season? Have you managed to watch any of us? Like, do you think we will go up as an outsider, or like, how do you see Leeds?
I mean, without question, one of the strongest sides in the league, without question. And I think the fact that when you guys have played the other top side, you've had some stupid results against probably teams that have banked up a bit like Preston did, got a goal, and then were able to defend. Or again, did you lose to Blackburn? That was probably a similar game.
We did, yeah. We lost 1-0 away from home.
But the fact that you've gone and played some of the top sides, like you beat Sheffield United relatively comfortably. Nobody else has really been able to do that. You should have beat Sunderland. We won't talk about what happened at the end of the game. You were really good in that game. But I would say there seems to be a little bit of a tendency, especially away from home, that you a little bit sloppy. Like that Swansea game, for example, like they're a decent side, but I don't know how Leeds sort of found themselves in that position where they were needing to like find that amazing last goal in the last few seconds. But yeah, I mean, it for me, it looks like you've got all the quality to, if not win the league, be challenging for that second promotion spot and going up to the Premier League. Really, I think that you and Sheffield United have probably been the two most consistent sides.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest.
I think from our perspective, it's been quite difficult, really, for us to put a finger on as to why we're so good at home and why we're so poor away. I think me and Charlie were discussing this on this last podcast. I don't think we need to make any sort of drastic changes to the squad, to the starting lineup. We don't need to change any sort of formation. So it is really kind of difficult for us to understand why. I think a lot of fans have kind of pointed the finger at Farke, for him to kind of come up with something totally different. But does he really need to come up with something totally different? Because we're so good at home. Is it just a bad patch for us, really, in terms of just seeing through this bad patch and pushing on this season, really?
Do you think he needs to because he doesn't seem to change tactics home or away, does he? He seems to play 4-2-3-1. Is that something you think he maybe needs to do to get away, or is it difficult because you probably dominate the majority of these games, I imagine? So
yeah, I think the games that we play away from home, we still manage to dominate possession. I think teams are more physical away from home, and I think that's something that we struggle with. Don't you think, Charlie? I do think we struggle with the physicality side of it. And to go back to what you said, Ian, I think we are a little bit sloppier away from home. I think in possession we're a little bit sloppier. I think we concede silly goals away from home, sloppy goals away from home. Like you said, the Swansea one's a prime example. I think 3 sloppy goals there. I think if you look at the goal that were conceded at the weekend away at Preston, another sloppy goal. Obviously, Ilham Melier doesn't do us any favours in some of these games. So it's a tricky one for me. I don't know what you think about this, Charlie. Maybe you'll disagree with me on this one. I don't think Farke needs to make massive changes to the squad. I don't know. Maybe do we switch it up front and go with 2 up front? We sometimes miss a focal point away from home. I don't know. What do you think, Charlie?
I think it's just one of them that fans can speculate all they like, but I just don't think Farke is going to change his formation. I don't think he's going to change personnel that drastically. If you think about it from a tactical perspective, I don't think he actually changes anything home or away. I think it's I think you've hit the nail on the head, Mike, in terms of, I think away from home, teams just put it on us a little bit more. And maybe it's just the players not dealing with that in the best way, because like we've already alluded to, at home, we're completely dominant. I mean, I remember that Plymouth game was one of the most one-sided football matches I've ever watched in my life. It was just, and I think most home games have been like that. I think I'd say only Middlesbrough and Watford, to my memory, are the only teams that have come to Elland Road and actually tried to play football, and it was quite nice. I think that's why the Borough game felt a lot better as a win, because we'd actually grinded it out against a team that were playing well. I mean, Ian, do you think Oxford are going to come and park the bus like we've seen most teams do, or do you think you'll actually have a go?
Well, I feel that we will have a go.
I hope so.
I feel that we will. I feel that, like, if it's Gary Rowett in charge, then I don't think we will. But I have a feeling it's going to be Craig Shaw in charge, who's done the assistant manager caretaker role a couple of times now, and he tends to just carry on from what's been happening before. So I can imagine him playing. He might play 4-2-3-1. He might match Leeds up, but I don't think he'll go in there with just the intention to put two banks of four and play long ball or stuff like that. I think he will still want Oxford to try and get on the ball and pass their way forward, which I got to say does worry me.
Is there any players from our side that you're more wary of than others? Is there anyone that stands out to you?
Quite a few, actually. But I just wanted to say one thing quickly on what you're talking about away form and home form. There's got to be a bit of an issue with when you go away from home. You guys are, if not the biggest fish, one of the biggest fishes in here. And for a lot of teams, it is their cup final in a lot of ways, playing Leeds away. So you are going to have that situation where sides are going to raise their game and want to put in a result against Leeds, maybe more than any other side.
Yeah, it seems to be a common kind of issue for us. Yeah, when we do play away from home, the team are up for it. The fans are up for it as well. It's usually a sellout. For the other team. But yeah, me and Charlie spoke on it on the last podcast as well. And I think the away form, I think it's a bit of a mentality thing as well. So I think obviously when you play for Leeds, you've got to be prepared for this. You've got to be prepared to play away from home, have the teams really G'd up for the game and the fans. So I think if you're not prepared for that, I don't think you'll last very long in the Leeds shirt, to be honest.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great point. But back to about the team. I mean, looking at it, it's that sort of triangle in the middle that kind of worries me the most. That sort of Tanaka, Rothwell, and Aronson, and just have a feeling they're going to dictate this game quite a lot, and they're going to win a lot of second balls. A lot of times, if you get crosses into the box, Oxford might clear the first ball, but I feel these guys are going to win a lot of the second balls and keep that move going, recycle that play. We've been struggling a lot with that lately, with sides really just kind of picking up those second balls and hurting us through the middle. And so it's really Rothwell against his old club, by the way. But
I was going to mention that.
Worried me that Oxford aren't going to be able to handle those. Yeah, he played two years for us. He played 2016 to 18. It just worries me those three are going to be able to sort of dictate the game, and Oxford aren't really going to be able to do much to stop them.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you've made, really, because I think if you'd have asked us about the midfield probably a month or two ago, we'd be really concerned because we obviously lost Ampadu through injury. He's back now, but if I'm being totally honest with you, I think he might struggle to get back in the team for a while until we regain fitness. We lost Gurev as well, who's probably going to be out for the season now. So I think a few months ago, we were really concerned about that midfield area. Obviously, we've seen Tanaka come in, who's an absolute joke in this league. I don't think any Leeds fan would, thought he was going to be this good. Obviously, Rothwell's come in as well. We knew from his time previously at Oxford, his time at, at Southampton, although we know that he's been good on the ball. But again, I think he's even exceeded expectations as well, hasn't he, Charlie? And I don't think we thought that these guys would play so well together. So I think, for the likes of Ampadu, for the likes of Gurev, I think they're going to have a real job coming back into the team. And I think your analysis is probably right there, Ian. I think probably the game will be won or lost probably in that midfield. And I think you've probably got to get to your centre midfielders very close and very tight to Tanaka and Rothwell.
I hope they do. If we try, I mean, I feel like we've got to do that. We've got to try and have two kind of sitting midfielders in there to try and screen a lot. But I just, again, you can do all that, and then you still look at the players you got out wide. And Dan James having a good season, isn't he? And Nonto, and you're just worried, like, you can plug one hole, but it might open up another gap.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for me.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to speak about Tyler Goodrum for a second, because for me, from the outside looking in, he looks to be kind of one of your best players this season. Is that a fair assessment? Am I right in assuming he plays on the right hand side or sometimes the front three, or can he switch sides? But I think when I've seen him in previous games, he seems to be a good player for you guys. And to reverse the question to what Charlie asked you, I think if you'd have asked me a question of who we'd probably be concerned about on our side, he's probably the player that stands out for me.
Yeah, you're quite right to highlight Goodrum. Goodrum's been excellent this season, and he's been very versatile. I actually think his best position is probably in that number 10 role, just behind a striker. But he's such a good player that Oxford have used him. They want him in the team wherever, really. So they've used him on the wide left. And he's scored some outstanding goals. I mean, already, if you look at his highlight reel, the goals he scored some amazing goals for Oxford, starting right back on his debut when no one had even heard of him. He won this game in the last minute back against Cambridge a couple of years ago. But yeah, just a guy, for a lot of our players, it can be a bravery issue when they're on the ball, of like getting the ball and maybe wanting to go backwards and sideways. Goodrum is someone that will get the ball, even if he's got people around him. He's comfortable in possession. He'll take people on. He'll try to drive Oxford forward and get us up the pitch. And he does certainly carry a goal threat. He can score. He's good with both of his feet. And this season has been excellent for us. And even through our poor patch we've had, he's still sort of been a shining light. And we played Millwall recently. We were pretty poor in the game. Didn't look like we were going to get an equaliser, and Goodrum steps up, slapped one in the top corner with about 5 minutes to go, and we end up getting a point. So, yeah,
he looks to be a real player for you guys. How long has he been with Oxford?
He's come through Oxford's youth ranks. He's it's his third season. First season he was really sort of bits and pieces. He was really not playing much. Last season was where he really started to come into his own and play a lot. And this season he's been a first team regular.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So I think that probably takes us on. So unless you want to pick up anything, Charlie, it'll probably take us to predictions for the game, score-wise.
I think obviously we'll do our preview tomorrow, obviously, Mike. So I think it'd be good just to get a score prediction off Ian, just to see how he's feeling going into it.
Right. So I do a silly predictions video on my channel, and I always predict Oxford to hammer the big sides just to try and trigger the away fans. So I did put Oxford to win 4-1, but I don't think that's going to happen at all. Of course, I'm not that crazy. Look, I'm just gonna back Oxford to win, just because if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. I admit this is going to be a really, really, really hard game, but it is one of the ones that the fans would have been looking forward to. You know, everybody looked at Leeds away on the fixture list. Oh, that would be a good game. And although it is a little bit brown trousers time now, it's come around. I'm going to say, look, here's a couple of things. We've not had one penalty so far this season. We've not had one sort of lucky goal where it's been a big deflection, or we've not had one lucky goal where someone's like scored an own goal. I can't remember anyone doing a goalkeeper mistake and letting a goal in. So I'm hoping that Meslier is in good form. and he's going to help us out in goal. And
are you looking for another Sunderland moment from Melier there?
I think we might.
God, I hope not.
I'm going to go for it's probably never going to happen in a million years, but let's say Oxford get a smash and grab last minute 2-1 win.
Well, Ian, I mean this in the most respectful way, but I hope you couldn't be as further from the truth, from that as possible.
Same,
Charlie, are we doing predictions, or do you want to save that for the next one?
No, yeah. All right then. I'll give my prediction. So, I'm expecting, and sorry to say, Ian, but I am expecting a similar performance to what we've seen against teams in the bottom half. I think we'll be on the ball constantly. And like you've already said, I think if you are going to get anything from the game, I think it will be probably a set piece or a quick counter attack, like a snatch and grab, like you've said. But I mean, we've got to win this game, haven't we? From our point of view, I'll go with a respectable 2-0 win to Leeds.
Scorers, Charlie?
I will go with Dan James, and I'll go Pascal from a set piece.
Okay.
Ian, that's from my scorers.
Yes. I'm going to ask you now, Ian. Which ones who are your scorers?
I reckon I'll say, because I touted it, Oxford will get that elusive penalty, so that'll be Cameron Brannigan getting the one. And let's say, because we talked about him, let's have Tyler Goodrum scoring a worldie to win the game at the end.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. I think if I'm being totally honest, I think the longer the game goes on, Ian, without you conceding a goal, I think the more chance you've got. It sounds obvious, but I think the more chance you've got of maybe getting something out of the game. But I think if we get an early goal, I think it'll really set the tone for the rest of the game. So I'm going to predict we probably get that early goal, and I'm going to go 3-0. In terms of scorers, I think I'm going to go for Dan James, Pirro, and Aronson.
Dan James has really hit a lot of form for you guys this season, hasn't he?
He's been absolutely amazing for us.
First name on team sheet for me.
Exactly. You took words out of my mouth there, Charlie. For me, he's the first name on the team sheet. I think he gets overlooked so easily, not only by everyone in football, but us as Leeds fans as well. I think he's very underappreciated. But I think this season, a lot of fans are appreciate him a lot more. He can be absolutely unplayable on that right-hand side. And I think, a lot of Leeds fans say, because we've got 4 really good wingers, but I don't think any of them can play on right-hand side nowhere near as good as Dan James. So for me, he's the first player on that team sheet. So he's been unplayable this season.
It's end product, isn't it? Like, I think like wingers, they can be good and they can be quick, but once they start actually scoring goals or making assists, that's when you really start noticing them.
Well, I think that was a common theme, wasn't it, with Dan James, his end products. I think when he were at Swansea, when he were at Man United, even when he came to Leeds at the first, it were end products. Oh yeah, he's fast, he can run, he can get into them areas, but can he really, produce a goal or score a goal? And I think that's what we've seen in the last season and this season. I think last season he scored about 13, 14 goals, and this season he's probably looking to match them numbers. So yeah, really happy with Dan James, and hopefully nobody comes in for him in January, because you know what it's like with us. We have a really good player and then they're gone the next minute.
My biggest worry for the game, though, is Leeds just get up early. And I mean, these are obvious cliches, but if the confidence is so low at the moment, if Leeds do get up early, it could just turn into a real kind of like exhibition game for us, which I kind of saw when we played Sheffield United. Sheffield United got up 2 goals pretty early, and it just felt like an exhibition game for them. Yeah.
Well, like I said, respectfully, Ian, I hope that's the case.
Yes. Don't worry, guys. It's fine.
Well, I wanted to end on one question that I want to, ask fans kind of moving forward as well who come on the podcast. I just want to ask you, first question, your favourite moment as an Oxford fan. And the second question is kind of what got you into being a Leeds, in an Oxford fan? We haven't converted you just yet, Ian.
Yeah, so I mean, the Oxford fan in me comes from just being like born and bred Oxford. My dad was an Oxford fan. Sort of early 90s, my dad started taking us to games. We didn't play at the Sam Stadium then. I don't know if you know Oxford's old ground, the Manor Ground. It was a dump, but it was our dump, and it was like our little fortress, and it was hard to beat. And so a lot of fond memories of supporting Oxford back then, including a pretty famous FA Cup win we had over Leeds. Where back in the day, where you had like Strachan and Gary Mack and Gary Speed. I think we drew 2-2 at the Manor, but we beat you somehow at Elland Road. This is like mid-90s. So it's going back some way. And again, the love for it just comes from there, really. You just, the more and more games you go to, the more of an affinity you get. And even though they've been all the way down to the National League, you still, that's your club, and you'd support them until you die, really. And it's been nice to finally get back up to Championship level. I'm going to say, literally, I'm going to go out and say that Bolton game in May. And I know you might think recency bias. I can't think of a more perfect day supporting Oxford than that.
Yeah,
just a wonderful day out of Wembley. The team played superb. The team won. The team didn't even look like losing the game, and it ended up with a promotion with like your hometown manager getting you up. So
were you there, Ian?
I certainly was. It was fantastic.
I bet it was a good day out for you guys. I think when you mentioned a famous cup win there before, you mentioned Leeds. I thought you were going to mention the Newcastle game. Did you beat Newcastle in what, 2016, 17, or something like that?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had a few good wins under. That was Michael Appleton was our manager. We had a few good wins. Swansea were a Premier League side. We beat them. I think Newcastle were actually a Championship side when we beat them back then under Rafa Benitez. But that was a good day as well.
Sure. Perfect. Well, I don't know if you've got anything to add, Charlie, but I think that probably wraps up the podcast pretty nicely. I just wanted to say, on behalf of both of us, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, and for all the listeners on there, please give him a look up on YouTube. Please give him a subscribe. And I wish you all the best for the season, Ian. I think there is, you are 20.
We'll do this again for the away game as well. We'll do this.
Yeah, again. Sure. Hopefully we're still in. Hopefully we're still in with a shout staying up by then. But it's I appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate it, and it's awesome that you guys are starting this channel. I'll give you a shout out on my channel as well for people to go over and subscribe. And just again, thanks for having me on.
We'll do the same.
No worries, mate.
Thanks again, Ian. Good luck for the rest of the season.
You too.
Cheers, mate. Bye.